नमस्कार दोस्तों, मेटलर्जी Q&A में आपका स्वागत है। तो दोस्तों, आप अगर इस चैनल में नए हैं तो चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर दीजिए और साथों साथ बेल आइकन को भी दबा दीजिए ताकि हर एक नया अपडेट आपके पास पहुंचते रहे। तो दोस्तों, आज इस वीडियो में हम वेल्डिंग टेक्नोलॉजी का सेकंड पार्ट लेके आए हैं और यहाँ 100 क्वेश्चन डिस्कस करेंगे। तो दोस्तों, टाइम वेस्ट ना करते हुए चलिए शुरू करते हैं। दोस्तों, पहला क्वेश्चन है, प्रेशर अप्लाइड इन इलेक्ट्रिक रेसिस्टेंस वेल्डिंग इज इन द रेंज ऑफ डैश kg पर सेंटीमीटर स्क्वायर। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों सी 250 से 550 kg पर सेंटीमीटर स्क्वायर। प्रेशर अप्लाइड इन इलेक्ट्रिक रेसिस्टेंट वेल्डिंग इज इन द रेंज ऑफ 250 से 550 kg पर सेंटीमीटर स्क्वायर। नेक्स्ट है, टिप ऑफ इलेक्ट्रोड यूज इन स्पॉट वेल्डिंग आर मेड ऑफ माइल्ड स्टील, कॉपर, सॉफ्ट सोल्डर, एल्यूमिनियम। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों बी कॉपर। नेक्स्ट है, डैश आर्क वेल्डिंग एम्प्लॉयज कंज्यूमेबल इलेक्ट्रोड, मिग, टिग, सबमर्ज या कार्बन। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों मिग आर्क वेल्डिंग। तो मिग आर्क वेल्डिंग एम्प्लॉयज कंज्यूमेबल इलेक्ट्रोड्स। नेक्स्ट है दोस्तों, थर्मिट यूज ऑफ थर्मिट वेल्डिंग comprises of charcoal and iron oxide, aluminum and iron oxide, charcoal and aluminum, none of these। इसका सही आंसर है बी एल्यूमिनियम एंड आयरन ऑक्साइड। नेक्स्ट है, ऑक्सीएसिटिलीन वेल्डिंग मोस्टली एम्प्लॉयज द डैश फ्लेम, ऑक्सीडाइजिंग, रिड्यूसिंग, कार्बोराइजिंग या न्यूट्रलाइजिंग, न्यूट्रल। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों डी न्यूट्रल। ऑक्सीएसिटिलीन वेल्डिंग मोस्टली एम्प्लॉयज द न्यूट्रल फ्लेम। नेक्स्ट है, डैश वेल्डिंग इज यूजुअली यूज्ड टू join the end of two pipe of uniform cross section। इसका सही आंसर है ए ऑफसेट बट। ऑफसेट बट वेल्डिंग इज यूजुअली यूज्ड to join the ends of two pipe of uniform cross section। Next है, edge of plates do not require beveling if their thickness are 10 millimeter। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों बी less than 5 millimeter। Edges of plates do not require beveling if their thickness are less than 5 millimeter। नेक्स्ट है, इफ T is equals to the thickness of the plate to be spot welded, then the electrode tip diameter should be equal to T root under T, 2 root under T या 2T। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों बी रूट अंडर T। इफ T is equals to the thickness of the plate to be spot welded, then the electrode tip diameter should be equal to root under T। Next, which is a multi-spot welding process? Projection welding, seam welding, both A and B, neither A nor B। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों ए प्रोजेक्शन वेल्डिंग। Which is the multi-spot welding process? इसका सही आंसर है प्रोजेक्शन वेल्डिंग। नेक्स्ट है, which is a continuous spot welding process? इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों बी सीम वेल्डिंग। Which is a continuous spot welding process? सीम वेल्डिंग। नेक्स्ट है, edges of the plate should have a double U or V grooves on both sides for welding if their thickness are dash millimeter। A less than 5 millimeter, greater than 5 millimeter, less than 10 millimeter या greater than 12.5 millimeter। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों डी 12.5 मिलीमीटर। एजेस ऑफ प्लेट शुड हैव a double U or V grooves on both sides for welding if their thickness are greater than 12.5 millimeter. Next है mild steel shanks are joined to high speed drills by dash welding, offset butt welding, flash butt welding, seam welding या spot welding। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों बी फ्लैश बट वेल्डिंग। माइल्ड स्टील शैंक्स आर जॉइंड टू हाई स्पीड ड्रिल्स बाय फ्लैश बट वेल्डिंग। नेक्स्ट है द स्पेसिंग बिटवीन टू स्पॉट वेल्डिंग इज स्पॉट वेल्डिंग शुड बी। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों ग्रेटर देन 3D। The spacing between two spot weld in spot welding should be greater than 3D. Next, the desirable pressure range of acetylene at the welding torch is oxyacetylene gas welding is about dash kg per centimeter square. इसका सही आंसर है 0.07 to 1.03 kg per centimeter square. The desirable pressure range of oxyacetylene at the welding torch in oxyacetylene gas welding is about 0.07 to 0.03 kg per centimeter square. Next है the desirable pressure range of oxygen at the welding torch in oxyacetylene gas welding is about dash kg per centimeter square. इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों ए 0.7 to 2.8 kg per centimeter square. The desirable pressure range of oxygen at the welding torch in oxyacetylene gas welding is about 0.7 to 2.8 kg per centimeter square. Next है the temperature of hydrogen flame is 1200 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड, 2400 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड या 3600 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड मोर देन दैट ऑफ ऑक्सीएसिटिलीन फ्लेम। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों बी 2400 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड। द टेम्परेचर ऑफ ऑक्सी हाइड्रोजन फ्लेम इज 2400 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड। नेक्स्ट है न्यूट्रल फ्लेम कैन नॉट बी यूज्ड फॉर वेल्डिंग कास्ट आयरन माइल्ड स्टील कॉपर एंड एल्यूमिनियम नन ऑफ दिस। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों नन ऑफ दिस। न्यूट्रल फ्लेम कैन नॉट बी यूज्ड फॉर वेल्डिंग कास्ट आयरन माइल्ड स्टील कॉपर एंड एल्यूमिनियम। इसका सही आंसर है नन ऑफ दिस। नेक्स्ट है कार्बोराइजिंग फ्लेम इज नॉर्मली यूज्ड टू वेल्ड कॉपर एलॉय स्टेनलेस स्टील phosphor bronze hard surfacing material like stellite। इसका सही आंसर है डी हार्ड सरफेस मटेरियल्स लाइक stellite। कार्बोराइजिंग फ्लेम इज नॉर्मली यूज्ड टू वेल्ड हार्ड सरफेस मटेरियल लाइक stellite। नेक्स्ट है द एंगल बिटवीन द वेल्डिंग टॉर्च एंड द वर्क in backhand welding as compared to that in forehand welding is less, more, same या A और B। इसका सही आंसर है less। The angle between the welding torch and work in backhand welding as compared to that of forehand welding is less. Next, the angle between the welding rod and the work in forehand welding as compared to that in backhand welding is less, more या same। The angle between the welding rod and the work in forehand welding as compared to that in backhand welding is more, less या same, either A और B। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों C, same। Next, the distance between the nearest edge of the plate and the center of weld is spot welding should be D, रूट अंडर D 1.5D या 3.5D। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों 1.5D, where D is equals to electrode tip diameter, the distance between the nearest edge and edge of the plate and the center weld in spot welding should be 1.5D। Next, lap joints are preferred for plate having thickness dash millimeter। इसका सही आंसर है C, less than 3 millimeter। Lap joints are preferred for plates having thickness less than 3 millimeter। Next, a pole of molten metal is used in dash arc welding, MIG, TIG, submerged या कार्बन। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों submerged। A pole of molten metal is used in submerged arc welding। Next, arc is produced between dash electrode and the arc in submerged arc welding, bare metal, carbon, metal, none of these। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों A, bare metal। Arc is produced between a bare metal electrode and the arc in submerged arc welding। Next, the non-consumable electrode is used in dash arc welding, MIG, tungsten, inert gas, both A and B, neither and neither B। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों B, tungsten inert gas। The non-consumable electrode is used in tungsten inert gas arc welding। Next, normally thermite welding is used for joining track and locomotive frames, joining rails, replacing broken gear tooth या all of above। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों all of above। Normally thermite welding is used for joining track and locomotive frames, joining rails, replacing broken gear tooth, all of above। Next है use of more of acetylene with less volume of oxygen in a oxyacetylene torch produce a and dash flame। इसका सही आंसर है C, carburizing flame। Use of more of acetylene with less volume of oxygen in a oxyacetylene torch produce a carburizing flame। Next, which type of flame is used for welding brasses या bronzes? Carburizing flame, oxidizing flame, neutral flame या none of these। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों B, oxidizing flame। Which type of flame is used for welding brasses और bronzes? तो इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों oxidizing flame। Next, the weld can be made either from left to right or from right to left in dash welding, forehand, backhand, vertical या none of these। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों C, vertical। The weld can be made either from left to right or from right to left in vertical welding। Next, two sheets of the same thickness but of different metal can be spot welded by beveling the edges, increasing the current, changing the size of one of the electrodes या none of these। इसका सही आंसर है C, changing the size of one of the electrodes। The two sheets of the same thickness but of different metal can be spot welded by changing the size of one of the electrodes। Next, magnetic arc blow occur during dash arc welding, AC, DC या both AB या neither N or B। इसका सही आंसर है B, DC arc welding। The magnetic arc blow occur during DC arc welding. Next, during arc welding, the current intensity depends upon the thickness of the plate, electrode diameter, method of edge preparation या नेचर ऑफ मेटल। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों बी, इलेक्ट्रोड diameter. During arc welding, the current intensity depends upon the electrode diameter. Next, plates of dissimilar materials of different thickness can be spot welded by beveling the edges, increasing the gap between the plates या controlling the pressure and current या none of these. इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों सी, none of the controlling the pressure of current. Plate of dissimilar materials of different thickness can be spot welded by controlling the pressure and current. Next, during dash polarity welding, the work is connected to the positive and the electrode holder to the negative. Straight, reverse, both A and B या neither A nor B. इसका सही आंसर है A, straight. During straight polarity welding, the work is connected to the positive and the electrode holder to the negative. Next है during dash polarity welding, the work is connected to the negative and the electrode holder to the positive. Straight, reverse, both A and B या neither A nor B. इसका सही आंसर है B, reverse. During reverse polarity welding, the work is connected to the negative and the electrode holder to the positive. Next, during dash polarity welding, the work is earth and the electrode holder is connected to the positive. Straight, reverse, both A and B या neither A nor B. इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों D, neither A nor B. During dash polarity welding, the work is earth and the electrode holder is connected to the positive. इसका सही आंसर है neither A nor B, मतलब स्ट्रेट और रिवर्स कुछ भी नहीं. During coated electrode arc welding, the rod compared to the coating metals earlier, later, simultaneously या either earlier or later depends on the polarity used during welding. इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों A, earlier. During coated electrode arc welding, the rod compared to the coating melts earlier. Next, in which type of welding a mixture of iron oxide and powder aluminium is ignited by heating? Carbon arc welding, thermal arc welding, resistant welding या none of these. इसका सही आंसर है B, thermite welding. In which type of welding a mixture of iron oxide and powdered aluminium is ignited by thermite welding? Next, carbon arc welding is done with DC only, not AC, because no flux polarity can be maintained in AC. DC can melt the electrode easily. Yeah, the carbon electrode can work on both the polarity या none of these. इसका सही आंसर है A, no fixed polarity can be maintained in AC. Carbon arc welding is done with DC only, not AC, because no fixed polarity can be maintained in AC. Next, Stainless steel plates can be best gas welded by using dash flame, oxidizing, neutral, carburizing या either A, B और C। इसका सही आंसर है A, oxidizing flame। Stainless steel plate can be best gas welded by using oxidizing flame। Next, forehand welding is suitable for plate thickness dash millimeter greater than 6, less than 6, greater than 12 या greater than 6 या greater than 25। इसका सही आंसर है A, less than 6 millimeter। Forehand welding is suitable for plate thickness less than 6 millimeter। Next है backhand welding is suitable for plate thickness dash millimeter less than 6, greater than 6, less than 2 या greater than 12। इसका सही आंसर है B, greater than 6, greater than 6। Backhand welding is suitable for plate thickness is greater than 6 millimeter। Next, electric arc welding can be used to easily weld the stainless steel plates by using the electrode rich in dash either in its core or the coating। क्रोमियम, निकेल, कार्बन या वैनेडियम। इसका सही आंसर है A, chromium। Electric arc welding can be used to easily weld the stainless steel plate by using the electrodes rich in chromium either in its core or the coating। Next, coated welding electrodes are mainly recommended for use because they join all thickness of metal, are cheap, give better finish, can work on both the polarities। इसका सही आंसर है D, can work on both the polarities। Coated welding electrodes are mainly recommended for use because they can work on both the polarities। Next, most suitable flame for gas welding of brass is dash flame, neutral, reducing, oxidizing, either A or B। इसका सही आंसर है C, oxidizing। Most suitable flame for gas welding of brass is oxidizing flame। Next is straight polarity is recommended for welding dash in AC arc welding, aluminium, bronze, mild steel या none of these। इसका सही आंसर है C, mild steel। Straight polarity is recommended for welding dash in AC arc welding। इसका सही आंसर है mild steel। Next, the strength of welded joint of 2 mild steel plate 10 mm thick compared to that of the base metal is generally more, less, same या either B or C। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों A, more। The strength of welded joint of 2 mild steel plate thickness 10 cm compared to that of the base metal is generally more। Next, dash welding is the most suitable for butt welding of 2 mild steel plate each 30 cm thick। इसका सही आंसर है A, electroslag। Electroslag welding is the more suitable for butt welding of 2 mild steel plates each 30 cm thick। Next is heat generated in the workpiece in case of resistant welding depends on the magnitude of welding current। Time current is allowed to flow, resistance of the current, conducting path या D all ABC। इसका सही आंसर है D. All ABC. Which क्या बोल रहा? Heat generated in the workpiece in case of resistant welding depends on the magnitude of welding current. Time current is allowed to flow. Resistance of the current conducting path. All ABC. Next is ratio of iron oxide to aluminium in the thermit mixture is, इसका सही आंसर है ए 3:1. Ratio of iron oxide to aluminium in the thermit mixture is 3:1. For arc welding of non-ferrous metals, dash current is preferred. Direct, low frequency alternating या हाई फ्रीक्वेंसी alternating या none of these. इसका सही आंसर है डायरेक्ट. For arc welding of non-ferrous metal, direct current is preferred. Next, a pole of molten metal is used in dash welding. Thermit, electroslate, submerged arc या none of these. इसका सही आंसर है बी electroslag welding. A pole of molten metal is used in electroslag welding. Next is electrode diameter in arc welding is selected mainly on consideration of material thickness, material to be welded, या voltage and current used, none of these. इसका सही आंसर है ए material thickness. Electrode diameter in arc welding is selected mainly on consideration of material thickness. Next is in dash welding, two pieces to be joined are overlapped and placed between two electrodes. Seam welding, spot welding, butt welding या projection welding. इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों spot welding. In spot welding, two pipes to be joined are overlapped and placed between two electrodes. Next, which of the following is the most suitable for joining two stainless steel foils of 0.1 mm thickness? Electroslate welding, gas welding, MIG welding या TIG welding. इसका सही आंसर है बी gas welding. Which of the following is the most suitable for joining two stainless steel foil of 0.1 mm thickness? इसका सही आंसर है gas welding. Next, the acetylene cylinder is filled with a material saturated with calcination carbide, calcium carbide, acetone या none of these. इसका सही आंसर है सी acetone. The acetylene cylinder is filled with a material saturated with acetone. Next, metals like copper and brass are welded using dash flame. इसका सही आंसर है सी oxidizing flame. Metal like copper and brass are welded using oxidizing flame. Next, solder essentially has a dash base, tin base, tin lead, tin silver, silver lead या bismuth lead. इसका सही आंसर है ए tin lead base. Solder essentially has a tin lead base. Next is oxygen cylinder are subject to proper heat treatment. Fabricated by casting, seamless steel cylinder या fabricated by forming. इसका सही आंसर है सी seamless steel cylinder. Oxygen cylinder are seamless steel cylinder. Next, the distance between two metallic surfaces to be braced properly, that is for wetting action to take place, should be dash millimeter. Between 0.025 to 0.075 या less than 0.025 या ग्रेटर देन 0.5 या ग्रेटर देन 0.25। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों ए, बिटवीन 0.025 टू 0.075 millimeter। The distance between two metallic surfaces to be braced properly, that is, for wetting action to take place, should be between 0.025 to 0.075 millimeter। Next is steel is welded using dash flame, carburizing, neutral, oxidizing and none of these। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों बी, न्यूट्रल फ्लेम। Steel is welded using neutral flame। Next is stainless steel is welded using dash flame, carburizing, neutral, oxidizing and none of these। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों ए, carburizing flame। Stainless steel is welded using carburizing flame। Next is the oxidizing flame compared to carburizing flame is less luminous या more luminous, equally luminous या unpredictable। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों ए, less luminous। The oxidizing flame compared to carburizing flame is less luminous। Next is dash flame is the most commonly used flame in gas welding, neutral, carburizing, oxidizing या none of these। इसका सही आंसर है ए, neutral flame। Neutral flame is the most commonly used flame in gas welding। Next is electrode get consumed in dash welding, thermite, gas resistant या आर्क। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों आर्क वेल्डिंग। इलेक्ट्रोड गेट कंज्यूम्ड इन आर्क वेल्डिंग। नेक्स्ट इज welding uses consumable electrode, dash welding uses consumable electrode। इसका सही आंसर है MIG welding। MIG welding use consumable electrode। Next is in arc welding the arc length should be equal to D, 0.5D या 2D या 3D, where D is equal to rod diameter। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों ए, डी। In arc welding the arc length should be equal to D। In arc welding the current to be used depend upon the material thickness, arc gap, electrode rod thickness या none of these। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों सी, electrode rod thickness। In arc welding the current to be used depend upon the electrode rod thickness। Next is which of the following is the most suitable for butt welding of two mild steel plates of 20 centimeters thickness for boiler drum? इलेक्ट्रोस्लेट वेल्डिंग, इलेक्ट्रिकल रेसिस्टेंट वेल्डिंग, सबमर्ज आर्क वेल्डिंग या MIG वेल्डिंग। इसका सही आंसर है इलेक्ट्रोस्लेट वेल्डिंग। क्वेश्चन नंबर ए, which of the following is the most suitable for butt welding of two mild steel plate of 20 centimeter thickness for boiler drum? इसका सही आंसर है इलेक्ट्रोस्लैग वेल्डिंग। नेक्स्ट, द मेल्टिंग पॉइंट ऑफ द फिलर मेटल इन ब्रेजिंग शुड बी अबव डैश डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड, 240 या 650 या 850 या 1050। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों 420 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड। द मेल्टिंग पॉइंट ऑफ द फिलर मेटल इन ब्रेजिंग शुड बी अबव 420 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड। नेक्स्ट, TIG welding is the most suitable for welding aluminium, stainless steel, mild steel या silver। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों aluminium। TIG welding is the most suitable for welding aluminium। Next, what is the angle of the electrode holder with the direction of welding in the manual TIG welding? 45 डिग्री, 70 डिग्री, 90 डिग्री या 25 डिग्री। इसका सही आंसर है 70 डिग्री। What is the angle of the electrode holder in the direction of welding? In the manual TIG welding is 70 degree. Next, AC arc welding always employs coated electrode because it uses less input current, has low leakage loss, has high efficiency and low sputter, या all of above। इसका सही आंसर है all of above। AC arc welding always employs coated electrode because it uses less input current, has low leakage loss, has high efficiency and low sputter, all ABC। Next is the oxidizing flame mixes the oxygen and acetylene in the ratio of 1:1, 1.5:1 या 1.8:1 या 2.5:1। इसका सही आंसर है 1:1, ऑप्शन नंबर ए। The oxidizing flame mixes the oxygen and acetylene in the ratio of 1:1। Next, if oxygen to acetylene ratio is 0.9:1 in the inner cone of the flame, then the flame is oxidizing, carburizing, neutral या none of these। इसका सही आंसर है बी, carburizing flame। If oxygen to acetylene ratio is 0.9:1 in the inner cone of the flame, then the flame is carburizing। Next, which gas is normally used in gas shielded arc welding? इसका सही आंसर है आर्गन, ऑप्शन नंबर ए। Which gas is normally used in gas shielded arc welding? Argon। Next is dash flame in oxyacetylene welding can achieve the maximum temperature, carburizing, reducing, oxidizing या either A, B और C। इसका सही आंसर है C, oxidizing। Oxidizing flame in oxyacetylene welding can achieve the maximum temperature। Next is filler material need not be necessarily used in case of soldering, brazing, welding या both B and C। इसका सही आंसर है C, welding। Filler material need not be essentially used in case of solder welding। Next, temperature above which brazing is done is dash degree centigrade। इसका सही आंसर है 225 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड। Temperature above which brazing is done is 225 degree centigrade। Next, seamless pipe have dash strength and corrosion resistance as compared to welded pipes, lower, higher, same या either A और B depend on the pipe materials। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों ऑप्शन बी। Seamless pipe have higher strength and corrosion resistance as compared to welded pipe। Next, weld decay may occur in dash steel when heated to 500 से 800 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों ऑप्शन नंबर बी, स्टेनलेस स्टील। Weld decay may occur in stainless steel when heated to 500 से 800 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड। Next, joint strength will be minimum in case of soldering, welding, brazing या all A, B and C can have the same joint strength। इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों ऑप्शन नंबर ए, soldering। Joint strength will be minimum in case of soldering। Next, figure out the correct statement। Weldability of aluminium is very poor hence it is subjected to brazing. Those metals which are capable of forming a continuous series of solid solution with each either exhibit good weldability. Highest temperature is achieved in oxyacetylene welding in outer portion of the flame and none of these. इसका सही आंसर है बी. Pick out the correct statement. Those metals which are capable of forming a continuous series of solid solution with each other exhibit good weldability. Option number B. Solder is a dash base alloy, निकेल, टिन, लीड या बोथ बी एंड सी. इसका सही आंसर है डी, बोथ बी एंड सी. मतलब टिन एंड लीड बेस alloy. Solder is a tin and lead base alloy. Next, porosity is the welded joint is not caused by dash gas. इसका सही आंसर है ऑप्शन नंबर ए, हाइड्रोजन. Porosity in the welded joint is not caused by hydrogen gas. Next, dash-based alloy are used as filler material in brazing. Cadmium, copper, tin या none of these. इसका सही आंसर है कॉपर, ऑप्शन नंबर बी. Copper-based alloy are used as filler material in brazing. Next, which of the following may not essentially be a non-pressure type welding process? Submerger welding, thermite welding, metal arc welding या none of these. इसका सही आंसर है thermite welding, ऑप्शन बी. Which of the following may not essentially be a non-pressure type welding process? ये सही आंसर है thermite welding. Next, which of the following metallurgical process is not involved in a welding process? Heat treatment, change in grain structure, fusion, none of these. इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों none of these, ऑप्शन नंबर डी. Which of the following metallurgical process is not involved in a welding process? Heat treatment, change in grain structure, fusion या none of these. इसमें इसका सही आंसर है none of these. Next, figure out the wrong statement. Good weld is as strong as the base metal. Both similar as well as dissimilar metals and alloy can be joined by welding. Heat developed in thermite welding is due to the exothermic reaction between equal parts of iron oxide and aluminum powder. या oxyacetylene flame can be used both for cutting as well as welding of steel. इसका सही आंसर है ऑप्शन नंबर सी. Figure out the wrong statement. Good weld is strong as the base metal. Both similar as well as dissimilar metal and alloy can be joined by welding. Heat developed in thermite welding is due to the exothermic reaction between equal parts of iron oxide and aluminum powder. Oxyacetylene flame can be used both for cutting as well as welding of steel. इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों सी. Heat developed in thermite welding is due to the exothermic reaction between equal parts of iron oxide and aluminum powder. Next is braze welding is same as soldering, a fusion welding process या combination of brazing and welding operation या neither brazing nor welding operation. इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों बी, a fusion welding process. Brazing welding is a fusion welding process. Next, figure out the correct statement. Because of its low melting point, Magnesium metal pieces are always joined by either soldering or brazing. B. Soldering may be done at a temperature of 500 degrees centigrade. The highest temperature in oxyacetylene welding is attained in the inner portion of the flame या none of these. इसका सही आंसर है सी. The highest temperature in oxyacetylene welding is attained in the inner portion of the flame. Next is filler metal is used in dash welding but seam spot या none of these. इसका सही आंसर है डी, none of these. Filler metal is used in dash welding but seam या spot none of these. इसका सही आंसर है none of these. Next is eye protection is needed during arc welding against dash rays, ultraviolet, infrared या both B and B या neither or neither B. इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों सी, both A and B. Eye protection is needed during arc welding against ultraviolet या infrared rays. Next, maximum thickness of material up to which plain and butt welding may be done is about 10 millimeter. 10, 25, 50 या 75. इसका सही आंसर है बी, 25 मिलीमीटर. Maximum thickness of materials up to which plain and butt welding may be done is about 25 millimeter. Next is dash welding is the most suitable for welding grey cast iron, oxyacetylene, arc, submerged arc या TIG. इसका सही आंसर है ए, oxyacetylene. Oxyacetylene welding is the most suitable for welding grey cast iron. Next, as preparation for welding is not required if the plate thickness is less than dash millimeter. इसका सही आंसर है ए, 4 millimeter. ऑप्शन नंबर है. As preparation for welding is not required if the plate thickness is less than 4 millimeter. Next, welding of dash essentially require preheating. इसका सही आंसर है एल्यूमिनियम, कास्ट आयरन, स्टेनलेस स्टील या हाई स्पीड स्टील. इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों बी, कास्ट आयरन. वेल्डिंग ऑफ कास्ट आयरन एसेंशियली रिक्वायर प्रीहीटिंग. नेक्स्ट, गैस वेल्डिंग इज द मोस्ट सुटेबल फॉर वेल्डिंग रॉट आयरन, ग्रे कास्ट आयरन, स्टेनलेस स्टील या हाई कार्बन स्टील. इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों बी, ग्रे कास्ट आयरन. गैस वेल्डिंग इज द मोस्ट सुटेबल फॉर वेल्डिंग ग्रे कास्ट आयरन. नेक्स्ट इज द कोटिंग मटेरियल फॉर वेल्डिंग इलेक्ट्रोड इज टर्म एज द स्लैग, फ्लैक्स, बिंडर या डीऑक्सीडाइजर. इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों बी, फ्लैक्स. The coating material for welding electrode is termed as the flux. Next, dash welding uses non-consumable electrode, TIG, MIG, laser या none of these. सही आंसर है TIG welding. TIG welding uses non-consumable electrode. Next, gases used in TIG welding are oxygen and acetylene, argon and helium, argon and neon, helium और neon. इसका सही आंसर है बी, argon and helium. Gas used in TIG welding are argon and helium. Next is arc welding of all type of metal cannot be done with transformer set because of the reason that it does not have the provision and facility for changing polarity, controlling current, regulating voltage या none of these. इसका सही आंसर है ऑप्शन ए, changing polarity. Arc welding of all type of metals can not be done with transformer set because of the reason that it does not have the provision and facility for changing polarity. Next, spot welding of two different material of same thickness can be done by changing the pressure applied, current, size of one electrode, time duration of current. इसका सही आंसर है ऑप्शन सी, साइज ऑफ वन इलेक्ट्रोड. स्पॉट वेल्डिंग ऑफ टू डिफरेंट मटेरियल of same thickness can be done by changing the size of one electrode. Next, widest application of laser welding is in the dash industry, electronic, heavy process या structural work. इसका सही आंसर है दोस्तों ए, ऑप्शन ए, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इंडस्ट्री. widest application of laser welding is in the electronic industry. तो दोस्तों आज के वीडियो में इतना ही, मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो में. थैंक यू, जय हिंद.